Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, September 16th. We're going to have our final Texas A&M review. We finally had a chance to look over all of the game back, and so we're going to talk about kind of the issues that have come up. I think there are so many that we do need to go heavy onto, especially on defense. We do need to go heavy onto the previous game, and then at the end we'll go into Purdue a little bit and what Notre Dame might see from them going forward. They've started 0-2. I mentioned it on my post-game show on Sunday evening. I think there's two kind of football teams. I was just talking about that. Talking about that with Jamie. I think there's a 2-0 offense and an 0-2 defense, and so there is a path forward here. They need to play a lot better on the defensive side. Jamie and I are going to talk a bunch about that. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whatever it is. We are going live. Links to the podcast are going to be in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang, and Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. As Notre Dame reloads for the season, now's the time to refresh your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com and step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. A lot of people in the chat so far, Jamie. It's very exciting. That's good. That's good stuff. I will monitor that in a second. I do want to start with this quote from Marcus
Get rid of
Freeman.
Commander Luke already. Like, get out of here.
What happened? I haven't seen.
Just look at this troll. Get out of here.
Oh God, Jesus. I thought he was gone last time.
I thought he was gone too. He probably started an own account. Like, get out of here. What a loser.
People can't handle it, man. Notre Dame loses some games and people can't handle it. All right, let's go to some Marcus Freeman quotes from yesterday, and I want to get your take on them. On execution versus defensive play calls. Marcus Freeman said, it's the execution of what we're asking them to do. And if we're asking them to do things they can't execute, then we got to evaluate what we're asking them to do. And so, like I said, it's not a call. It's not a scheme. There's no perfect call, no perfect scheme. It's the ability to execute. We've spent time figuring out the lack of execution, right? If the answer was just call something different, we would do that. But it's like, okay, this is what we called. This is why we called it. Why did it fail? And that's where you got to really eval what is the core of the failure in the execution. And that's what we've been doing. So basically, I'm going to give my take on this, and then you can kind of talk about that yourself. What he's saying is, I think he's seeing execution errors no matter what they call. Right. So yeah. I think for him, the issues go beyond the scheme and the call itself. It's like we keep seeing breakdowns. Why do we keep seeing breakdowns is what I'm taking from that. So when he says it's not the play call, it's not the scheme, I think he's saying we got to get these guys to perform the way that they're supposed to before we can even entertain the idea that the scheme itself isn't very good. That's kind of how I'm taking from it. And to be clear, that is a coaching. That is a shot.
It's a shot at coaching.
That's a shot at coaching, right? So that's how I took it. Let's talk about that, and then we can kind of get into the defense of what you kind of saw in the rewatch and everything.
Yeah. So I know because I saw somebody here said that Freeman's being vague. I don't really think he is being that vague. Right. I think it's just he's just not saying names of the coaches. Like he's not naming this guy is not doing it. Like he's not doing that. I think it's pretty obvious, right? And he's calling out all the coaches on the defensive side of the ball, but pretty much reads Chris Ash, because he's in charge of it, right? That's what he's charged. He's also kind of calling out himself because he's not doing a good enough job there too. Right. But I think, I thought what he's saying, it is true that like in terms of structure, there are a lot of similar. Like they ran a lot of man against Texas A&M and stuff like that. Like it didn't change all that much, right? Like from it, they actually in this last game they ran significantly more than they did against Miami. So you're like, okay, well they went back to that. Obviously, that just wasn't the answer to just do that because they're not coaching those guys good enough. And I think there's a lot of like preparation issues in terms of, you know, last year it always felt like the defense kind of knew what was coming. They were so well prepared, scouting report wise and stuff. Just knows exactly what they were going to see before. That's why they're able to. You can play fast when that happens.
Right.
So I think there's that. But then it's also adjustments and knowing like, okay, well, hey, we saw that now. Guess what? If we see this again, think about it this way. And when you get got on similar things in the same game, that's coaching too. It's like, why are you, if Chris Asher down on the sidelines, that's part of the reason you're down on the sidelines is to make those adjustments there, right? And if that's not the case and you're not doing a good enough job of that, then you have to reevaluate that part of it and say, maybe he needs to go up top.
Right. I was just about to say that. I think he might need to go up top. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that is something too. Maybe he's not getting a clear enough picture to make those adjustments on the field, right? And also too, maybe he's not the right guy to communicate it because that's also something too, right? Like where, you know, he won't be speaking directly to the players. It'll be
let their position coaches talk to them.
Let their position coaches talk to them. So I think that is something that I mean, I don't know if they're going to do that, but honestly, that is something I would look at because they make so it was a different picture after halftime. Like obviously they played better after halftime. I think that's pretty clear, right? You know, it's not just, you know, film, numbers, anything. They played better after halftime. You can't get cooked an entire half. You know, you have to make adjustments within, you know, the game. And also, too, they could have got cooked in the second half at other points, too, because, like, think about that Amari Niblack play. Like, that was
it's a touchdown.
That's a touchdown.
It's a touchdown. Yeah. Unfortunately, like it's the ball's overthrown. He's running free of Hobbs. Maybe he catches him at the 10, you know, inside the 5. But he's
either way,
and
it's just explosive, and
right.
they're probably going to score a touchdown on that drive, right?
Yeah.
And there's just so many things too about like when I look at it, like it's just so clear that you go from a defense that had very minimal assignment errors, very minimal, and you just didn't see guys running free, bus, whatever, right? And it's not like guys didn't get beat individually at times. Sure, they did. It happens, right? It happens. But when you see guys get beat bad, and when it's obvious, you don't need the all 22 to see like that guy had 4-eye discipline here, or this or that, or he bid on this or that. That stuff is happening. It is, yes, there's a drop in personnel. You know, I think that is something that probably, you know, I think it would be fair. Everybody kind of brushed it aside thinking like, oh, it'll be fine because of they have enough coming back. And also too, you thought those guys were going to elevate. The problem is those guys haven't elevated. So they're not doing a good enough job coaching them because you've seen those guys play at a high level. So, I mean, I really do think it is like, you know, 90% on coaching or whatever. Like that's the way I would look at it.
I think to the drop off, I think there's been a lot of talk about Xavier Watson. He's obviously missed.
Yes, obviously.
Obviously, right? The drop at nickel, I think, is to me the one that is glaring right now. Carson Hobbs is simply not ready to play the full game against that caliber of opponent. I wouldn't even say it's his fault. It's not his fault that he had to go play. Like, Devontae Smith gets hurt in the pregame or whatever.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And he's got to go play. But the fact of the matter is that they threw at him 14 times. There were explosives. There were first downs. They threw it to him in man. They threw against him when he was in his zone. The offensive coordinator for Colin Klein for Texas A&M saw the weakness and he went after it, right? Which is what good coordinators do. So there's that piece, right? I just think he is. I feel like there's alignment stuff, like small alignment stuff with him, like the slant at the end of the game on the last drive. He's playing 7 yards deep on an out, and 7 yards deep on an outside leverage, and he's pedaling at the snap. Of course, that slant is open, right? Like it, and he doesn't have the thing that Jordan Clark had, and to some extent Thomas Harper had. He had the calmness of his feet. He did not. He was very comfortable. But then also that goes to like, I know what I got behind me.
Yes.
I know what I got behind me, and I'm okay if they try to do this because I can sit on this because I know what's coming behind me. And I don't think Carson Hobbs has that confidence right now.
No.
And he shouldn't. And frankly,
yeah,
he has reason not to.
Yeah.
And so that's where you get a lot of problems when you're not confident what's behind me. Because in the first game against Miami, he should have had help back there from someone, and it's not coming. And it did not come, and he got beat. He shouldn't have the confidence in what's behind him.
And I think also too, like, and I've obviously, like, I thought about, like, Tay Johnson going to that spot or whatever, right? And maybe, right? But I think what you said on Power when you popped in, when you talked about how they didn't have those when they got Jordan Clark, when they got Thomas Harper, all that stuff is out of them.
Yeah.
Clark was like a 6-year guy who understood, not only, like, obviously his dad played in the league and all that too, right? Like, there's all this too. He brought an intelligence. Same with Rod Hurd too, right?
Yeah.
They brought a football intelligence that came with it. And you could tell when Clark talked about the position and how he understood, just, this is where my leverage is here. This is where my coverage is. This is where my help is. This is when I'm on an island. This is when I have this. This is when I'm beat and I have to do this. And that comes with time. It does come with time. And unfortunately, like, they don't have time with Hobbs. Like, it's just there. But then that's when it comes to coaching, where it's like almost all of, like, oh God, now I can't. Now the name escapes me. The guy who's helping out with Nichols right now, but he came over with Ash.
Yeah.
But that guy should be like, and he's probably up top, right? So, but that guy is like, every single thing should be like focused on this. Like, here's this, there's this, whatever, right? Like, because it's so hard. And when you're going up against a guy like Mario Craver, it's just like, you make one mistake and it's like, you're toast, right?
Yeah.
But that is also just the reality of it, right? Like, that you can't afford to be like that. And you have to get better within a game. You can't even wait for the next week to do that. You have to be like, I made this mistake then, I can't make this mistake again later on. And unfortunately, like, when you make like a couple mistakes and then you're in your head, you're thinking about all these things. I'm sure that was happening to him during the game, let alone, like, probably when he was thinking like he could have picked off the ball to win the game too. All of this stuff, right? So it's tough, but right now you don't have another choice. Like, you have to just get him there. And like we said on Power too, like, there's a lot of reps with him that I'm like, that's a good rep. Like, he's got a lot of ability. And I think it is very similar to Tariq Bracy, where you're like, you saw a lot of the things with him early in his career where you're like, man, you understand why he's getting benched. But then as he became smarter and better, you're like, man, that's a heck of a nickel. Right.
Yeah.
And it's why you don't see too many guys who are advanced play that position, and why like Sean Crawford really was like a unicorn. Obviously there was things with Sean Crawford, like size wise, that limited him in injuries, obviously, but he was just so smart, like beyond his years in that way. Yeah. And but at that same point too, you have to do things to help a guy like that.
Yeah.
You have to do what you can to help a guy like that.
Yeah. Peter Davis too says, if it's clear that Ash is a bad hire, and it's clear he's in his mind, it's clear, why not just move on now and give Mickens a shot? I don't see a downside to that. So what I'll say to this is, in 2023, that was the Jared Parker year, right?
Yep.
I believe, it's kind of unconfirmed, but we believe, like mid-year, when there was a lot of to do about him and the job that he was doing, I do believe that Notre Dame had kind of shifted things in terms of play calling and responsibilities and that sort of thing. It wasn't public, and it wasn't, it wasn't a big deal, and it was never acknowledged or whatever. But we do think that there was a move made to where it's like, you're losing responsibility here. Now, granted, that happened kind of mid-year.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether Marcus Freeman is prepared to do that or whatever. What I will say is, like, Marcus Freeman will not like suffer fools, and he will not, if he feels like, no, this isn't working and I'm going to take the reins away from you and give it to whoever for whatever, he will do it. Jared Parker is a very good friend of his, and he moved on from it. Like,
it was very clear that there was going to be they wanted to. Hopefully he got that head coach job, but
yes,
there was going to be a change.
There was going to be a change no matter what, and there was a change mid-year. So the responsibilities were shifted. So if it gets to that point, it will happen, right? It's not for me to say. I don't know, like, it should happen now or whatever. I am not in that room, and I am not in those meetings, and I don't know all that stuff. All I'm saying is Marcus Freeman is not afraid to make that call. Okay. Let's talk about ways to improve and changes that need to be made, and how this gets better for Notre Dame in our eyes. I think one of the biggest things, first of all, is I would be shocked. I don't want to say shocked. I think it is kind of clear that Notre Dame is going with the Bronte Johnson experiment at safety. I think it's going to be him and Schuler for the rest of the season, barring injuries and health. I think after I noticed. So first of all, Jalen Stroman kind of busts on the out and up that ended up being an 86-yard touchdown. I think that's pretty clear, right? He's got to carry that receiver, and he didn't do it. And that's a mistake, right? It doesn't have to turn into a touchdown. He misses the tackle. Christian Gray does whatever it is that he was doing there. I think maybe he thinks that he just needs to give a shoulder because he's wrapped up. I don't know. It ends up being a touchdown. On the play to Zachary, when I think it was Christian Gray that went out, he played one more play because the ball was at the goal line. It was a touchdown. After that, Jalen Stroman did not come back in the game until Adon Schuler was ejected, and they were playing 3 safety looks.
Yeah.
After that, Bronte Johnson played every single snap. I think that it is Bronte Johnson's job at this point. I think it should be. And I think getting an athlete like him is part of why this can get better, because he is a good player. He is electric. He is physical. He is a playmaker. Like,
he will make plays.
He should have had 2 interceptions, but for Marcel Reed overthrowing the ball. And he is just a guy. He has the that everyone talks about. He just has it. It's kind of similar to KVA in the sense that, like, he might make mistakes in some kind of way. There he is flashing and making it happen. So I think he is part of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Jamie, but what do you see that they can improve on? Aside from just, execution.
Aside from
Yeah.
Well, I think what Freeman said about we got to marry up the front and the coverage in terms of what they're asking guys to do. I think that is so much bigger than really, obviously the back end stuff. There's things to get fixed and stuff, but one of the reasons why the back end was good was because the front was getting pressure so much. Like Notre Dame has been one of the best pressure teams the last really 3 years, really. And they haven't had dominant pass rushers. They haven't. I will say there is a gap, obviously, between they miss Cross and Mills. I'm not going to say they don't. They absolutely do miss them. But Botello and like Boubacar, those guys have become worse than they should be, right? I mean, it's through 2 games. I don't want to be whatever, but I'm just saying they're worse. They're performing worse now rushing the passer than they did last year. The thing, and it's not because they're both coming off knee surgery, like it's because of how they're approaching things with pass rush, and that is a big thing for me. Like the pass rush plan is so much worse, and I think that they don't threaten protections in the same way. They don't make. Yeah, and not even just, we're talking just standard downs, passing downs, whatever. They don't make the offensive line think. Everything is static. Well, not everything, but like
and the rare time they do is when they get the pressures.
Yes. And that's the one thing that has just, it is so obvious that it stands out because they don't do there's no pre-snap stemming. There's a little bit of hey, well, we're going to slant the line here. We're going to do that. Okay, that's fair. But there's not much of it. And that's just for standard down stuff, whatever. They run no stunts on early downs. And I know that's Freeman said, well, you don't really run it. It's well, they used to. They used to run it. And we're actually pretty good at it. And did it, and you also know hey, it's a rundown. You run it differently than when you're not stepping up field with it. You're thinking it in a different way when you're running a TE, tackle first and second stunt, right? So that is something that they're just not doing on some of that kind of stuff to cause more disruption and on early downs. But then even just third downs and I know they done a decent job on third downs, just percentage wise, pretty good and all that. But the reason they're not getting any havoc or creating stuff where, they have no forced fumbles, right? They have no forced fumbles. They have, they're barely any tackles for loss. They have one sack, right? They didn't even really come close to sacking Reed in the game.
So the point I want to bring up on that is they definitely did not. The play that I put on Twitter about Tate Johnson, about how he almost intercepted the pass, that's a quarterback standing in his own end zone with 4 seconds to throw.
Yes.
4 seconds.
Yeah.
He's not flushed. He's nothing. He just stands there. It's not a good throw, and if it is a good throw, it's intercepted because Tate Johnson made a good play. And maybe it is a good throw. I see that he's here, and I'm gonna sail it, right? And maybe that's what he was doing. 4 seconds to throw, standing in your own end zone. That's no good. Not gonna work.
Well, and it's also the exact and if this is another thing, right, where there's such a different approach to, and we talked about it yesterday too. They don't dictate anything. They just react.
They get dictated to.
And that is the opposite of the previous approach. So it's funny because I remember Al Washington talking at camp, and he's like, well, the culture is still the same. I don't think the culture actually is the same because of the calls and whatever. And this is why I do think it isn't just execution specifically up front. It is the calls. It is what the
there's something I want to point out, because there's a lot of talk about Mike is talking about, we heard in the off season. And when I say off season, I mean like June.
Yeah.
Okay. Like not any time recently. Okay. When the players were on, the coaches and players, they were nervous about what was coming. This is what we're talking about. The identity is different. The culture is different. Culture is, we are coming after you. That is what we do. That is our identity. And we are coming. And, for better or worse, this is our style.
Yeah.
And that is the part that was supposed to be enhanced, but I don't want to be something different.
Yeah.
And they are something different right now. And that is what I think, that is what the discontent is, that everyone's reading about, that is out there, that I'm hearing about, that everyone is talking about. The discontent comes from, this is not our defense. When Marcus Freeman talks about the Notre Dame defense, and it's ours, and it's his, and he's the head coach, for them, it is not the same. And they don't trust it, and they don't believe in it. And it shows up all over the tape.
Yeah.
That is where it all comes from. It's like, they are just, this is not us. We feel different. So I just wanted to make that point. Please continue, Jamie.
Yeah. And honestly too, I think one of the reasons why Golden was such a good fit at Notre Dame was not just like, I know everybody wants to think fit, where they're like, oh man, he respects the history and all that. Yeah. Okay. That is great. Great. He coaches similarly to Marcus Freeman as a defensive coordinator. They want to light you up. They want to play violent. They want to get after you. And I know that Freeman, that's what he likes. Like, why do you think one of his favorite guys was Maris Leofau? And first of all, I mean, for all the people, I just want to shoot everyone to the moon who ever said bad stuff about Maris Leofau, because I'm doing the film piece of like watching the pressure stuff that Notre Dame did, and him absolutely destroying people on so many blitzes, like where he gets picked up, but he doesn't get picked up, or him like destroying a guard and that opening something up for someone else. But that was part of that identity, was like, they were getting after it. And that part is just done. Like that, the final three plays, and I understand, like, if you go back and watch the final three plays, right? So it's 2nd 11, third and 11, 4th and 11. Yes, I understand Kinders got tackled. It was a horrible no call. Yes. It's inexcusable. And for that,
inexcusable and unacceptable.
Yeah. Guy should probably be fired over it. I think it's fair, honestly, because when it's like that kind of play and he's not even looking at the call, and it reeks of bias.
Yeah.
But anyways, it really doesn't matter that part about it. It matters that they were just like, well, you're almost like hoping that it's like, you're playing not to get beat rather than we're going to beat you. It's the opposite of Jaden Maivea, where you're down in the red zone. Guess what? We're coming after you. And he threw it to Notre Dame twice, and boom, pick six, right? It is the opposite of that. You mentioned the part about where, it's third down or whatever. He almost throws the pick. It was just like, I mean, no one was sniffing him on that play. It was just a bad throw. It is the opposite of when they played Indiana in the college football playoff last year, in that same area where they were like, we got him here, in their own rhetoric. Get it. Go get him. Right. Like, they're blitzing Jalen Sneed. They're running twists. They're running games, like everything. And he talked about getting back, like Freeman talked about, like, we got to get like that, the velocity that they're playing at. It's 100% the scheme. It is not the players. It is not the players. It is the scheme, because they aren't playing it in the same way to get after it. It's like catching and reading rather than like going and attacking, like crashing a gap or doing it. Like, there just isn't that. And it's and you pick a game, like pick Georgia game, pick the Louisville game, pick any game from Notre Dame last year, and it looks so much different. The defense looks different. Yes, they're giving up those plays at the back end. That is 100% thing. But the way they attack, or the way they don't attack up front, and because even when they run blitzes, I like, yeah, okay, they ran some more like, cross dog stuff in this game, and it was okay, right? But that is just such a standard thing, and that is an early down thing they do. Like, they don't do any, like, there's nothing on, there wasn't one point on a third down where you were like, man, they're just like, because
they dialed up a winner to get.
They dialed up a winner. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was like, yeah, well, we let Reed sit in the pocket and he just threw it in the dirt, or he threw it over the guy's head, or he almost threw it to us. It's like they played safe because they didn't want him to run or whatever. Okay, yeah. But even with that, like, go back and watch the Duke game in 2023. And all the things that they did, that where they spied, but they did it in a way where it was like not the exact same 3 plays in a row, where they're like, okay, we're going to stunt here. And then this, like, no, not the same on 3 plays in a row. They would do like, there's this one play, I'm going to highlight it in the piece I'm doing. 5-man, it looks like potential 6-man pressure. It's like 5 guys up front. DJ Brown is the mic, right? Looks like cover 1, right? Looks like cover 1. Looks like DJ Brown's going to come, right? It's 3 guys rushing with Leafau as a spy, and JD Bertrand steps up, occupies the guard. No, he steps up, occupies the guard, but he peels off, picks up the back. Leafau goes, steps up, makes it think he's coming up the field, backs off, occupies that guard. It turns, it looks like cover 1. DJ Brown drops to the deep half. It's 2-man. Haven't seen anything like that from Notre Dame this year. And that is the perfect one of like front coverage married together turns into a picture that's confusing for the offensive line, confusing for the quarterback. They contain Leonard, even though Leonard made Leafau miss and he got hit, but he broke the tackle. It became like a 2-yard game. Boom, they're off the field. Like, that is just so different than anything that they did in this game to do it. They didn't do, there was no creativity with it. Or when they played NC State, when they're God, who was the lefty quarterback? The guy, lefty quarterback who
Brennan Armstrong,
right? And that was his thing. He's like, doesn't see it, go. He's gonna run, right? Well, how did they do it? They did it differently. Sometimes they spied, sometimes they did. They did 4 across. They, Mike Backer just blitz straight down the middle, bull rush the center. Everybody just squeezing the pocket in. Just where's he going to go? There was they cover up all the gaps. And it was just a different look than what it is. And it ends up being like a good play. He ends up throwing it away, right? Where is that? Where is, last year they did it, and they don't do it. You don't do it all the time, but it was like Cross and Mills lined up at end. Guess what? They're running ET stunts. Those guys just crashing the guards, opening it up. It's just a different look. Not only is that like, hey, that's different, and that can lead to things to confusion for the offensive line. Also, that's the kind of defense anyone wants to play in. You're like, oh, guess what, guys? We're doing this week, doing this. Everyone's like, oh, yeah. Like, guys get excited about that instead of all right, guys, well, we're gonna rush 4 here and just rush 3 and then drop this. Like, what is that? That is just it couldn't get more vanilla.
Yeah.
And when you're vanilla, you're easy to block. That just means unless you just like, and I hate to always bring it up because when I always think of like, hey, Clemson, and this is one of the reasons why Clemson isn't Clemson anymore, quite whether their defense is still pretty good, but it's like Peter Woods can just destroy a guy on any given snap and then do it, just like Dexter Lawrence could, just like Christian Wilkins could. And yeah, Brent Venables looked like a great coach when he was doing that, but he'd also light guys up too with blitz and all that. But it's like, you have those dudes up front, that's fine. Notre Dame doesn't have those dudes up front. And even if they did, it would still be a bad strategy to do what they're doing right now. And it's just, that really just stands out to me. Like, and we were talking before too, Greg, and I'll let you kind of take over because I just like went on this super long rant. But the BMO, or not the BMO, but like the
Leonard Moore,
Leonard Moore, cat blitz, like
corner blitz,
yeah. Go, you go ahead.
Well, no, we were just saying, like, because I was looking at it, and I actually love the fact that they sent Leonard Moore on a blitz. Like, you should be doing that because they played zone behind it. So it's like, if you're playing zone in cover 2, you don't need Leonard Moore in coverage to play cover 2. Like, that's other people can play that flat position, right? So if you're going to use Leonard Moore on a blitz, do it when you're playing zone anyway, playing zone in the back. You send Leonard Moore, but the problem is I was looking at it and I was like, well, they're only sending 4 period. And usually if you're going to send less than the offensive line has to block, then you have to overload a side.
Yeah.
And so that you make just that side of the offensive line have to make a decision and you confuse them. So like they send him on a blitz. They vacate Heinisch from that side because he's got to get to the other side because he's got to take. So they have gap responsibility and they have gap integrity there. And then I think it was Traore who worked up the field. Well, you have a guard just sitting there with nothing to do, and he finds Leonard Moore and he blocks him.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that pressure's not going to get home. Like, that's not.
No.
And now it's like Leonard Moore against the guard. Well, yeah. No, I don't like that, actually. The funny thing is that the play should have worked because Christian Gray's got to pick off the pass. That's another one where it's like Marcus Freeman has to be very conscious when he speaks about, when he says execution, it's like, oh, blame the players. The players are accountable.
Yes.
And that has to be emphasized. You do have to hold the players accountable. You can't just sit around and be like, well, the coach is bad and we don't trust him. And no. You're out there. You got to make plays. And you can't undermine your coach to the point where the players they feel like, oh, I don't have to listen to him, or I don't, like the coach has lost all faith. No, the players have to be held accountable as well for stuff. Even though, like, Marcus Freeman also really has to look at Ash and what he's doing. I think that for this to all get changed, I think the first thing that Ash needs to do is he needs to be open to ideas from the position coaches. He is the one new guy in that room. Everyone else has been around before. Everyone else has been a part of good defenses. He needs to be open to ideas from them. And he has to be open to ideas from Freeman, but he doesn't have to be open because he's higher up than the position coaches. He has to swallow pride, and I don't know that he isn't or whatever. I'm just saying it has to happen. He has to swallow pride, and he has to listen to ideas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, too, that's kind of what I thought would happen before. Like I kind of thought that he would be kind of forced to do that. But obviously that didn't happen. I just think there's just so many of those things too, where there's just a lack of creativity when it comes to how they approach pressure packages. And I'm not saying you have to take exactly, what Golden was doing. Like,
for sure.
Be your own man with this stuff and what you want to choose and do. But if it's not in your bag, then make somebody else in charge of the pressure packages.
Yeah.
And there has to be more there. And that is something too that I can honestly see Freeman actually being like, hey, this is me from now on. This is what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to change things. Because I think like, while I don't think that like Freeman's, pressure stuff at Cincinnati and Notre Dame was like better than what Golden did at Notre Dame. I mean, it's certainly much better than what we've seen from Notre Dame so far. And also like is one of these guys who grows as a coach and would add a lot of that stuff too. So I think that's why when, there was somebody who's like the very first comment in the chat, Greg, I know before we even went on and asked, is this fixable?
Yeah,
it kind of is, like even with Chris Ash. And I think, like, there you go. Adam Dowling. Shout out to Adam Dowling. There's a lot they can fix. I'm not saying they are going to be exactly what people thought they would be. And I'm not saying that, hey, Chris Ash, he's gonna turn into this great coordinator and be whatever, right? Like, I'm not saying that at all. Like, I think, if anything, I would not feel very confident that, things are going to go in a direction or Ash is going to become the next Golden. Like, no way. Like, there's nothing in my mind that would say that right now. But can they get it fixed to be like, okay, they become back to a similar havoc producing defense. They fix up some of the stuff that some of the problems are there. They still have some issues because of personnel or whatever. Yes. But some of the other stuff kind of makes for it, because the one thing that shouldn't be bad is the pressure stuff.
Yeah.
That should just be so much better. He held the ball 3.11 seconds, the average time to throw. This wasn't the Miami game.
Yeah.
The Miami game was like, yeah, he was getting the ball out quick, whatever. No, this wasn't that. And I do believe like those players are better because I've seen them be better, right? So it's just, I think they got to do a better job coaching it and putting those guys in a position to win.
Yeah. M. Moore is asking what happened with the Nichols Smith before the game. So it's funny. I am very attuned to, like, I'm always watching warmups. I just like to watch how guys move around and stuff like that. I like to pick up. I like to pick up little tidbits on players that like aren't going to play and see how engaged they are. Because here's the other thing. So something that I noticed. Okay, in terms of the preparedness of the freshmen, I'll tell you something I didn't like, Jamie. I'll tell you something I didn't like. They're in the pregame warmups, and I think this is, how they warm up in like clothes, like in their, like, not in helmets. They're just out there and like they're in their warm-up stuff. They're not padded at all. Like, no helmets. They have no, how they have the pregame warm-ups. They all come out and they all get loose, and then they go inside and they put on their pads and then they do the official warm-up thing. It's like you had all the DBs working out. And by the way, like, Devontae Smith was heavily involved in this. Like, he was doing all the stuff, right? So he was definitely hurt after this portion of it. And the freshmen, the Dallas Golden, Mark Zachary, and Cree Thomas, they're all out there, but they're not really.
Yeah, it's different when you're not going to be.
They're not like a huge part of the game plan.
Yeah.
The problem is like especially for Zachary, if someone gets hurt, you are a part of the game plan because you're the one that comes in. I need it to be a little bit tighter on that, right? And that's this kind of stuff that's like Marcus Freeman talks about, like things you're tolerating.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, hey, 100%. If you're out there, stop messing around.
Well, because why do you think Leonard Moore was ready?
Right.
Why do you think Ben Morrison was ready?
Right.
Those guys came ready. They came ready they were like, took it very seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that whatever, like we can't judge just based on that, but I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
just saying, I don't want to.
There are
Right,
levels
right,
to it.
right,
And it's
right.
like, you have to, they should be, Zachary should be like, how Leonard Moore is approaching this. I got to approach it.
Yes.
Like that's exactly how it should be. And that's also how, like it's funny because I know this is the time, Notre Dame's defense 0-2. No, Notre Dame's 0-2. The defense has been bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is the point in time when young guys who aren't playing think, I should be out there. It happens. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not just specifically those guys, not naming names, but parents. But parents are like, my kid is better than that guy. Whatever. That happens. And it is one of those things where it is up to that player to prove I should be out there, and they have to take it as seriously to get there, because it happens where guys become like, there's a lot of guys last year who barely played in the first couple games that became big contributors later on, right? And that is something that is like, people don't realize, like, that happens all the time, like every year too. And also too, Notre Dame hasn't, even though they got some guys banged up, but this is a perfect example too. What if Moore and Smith can't play?
Right.
You got to be ready.
Yeah.
And if you weren't doing everything to be ready before then, like, you're doing yourself a disservice, because like, that is also how, like, someone like, just Cree Thomas, for example, that is how you jump one of those other guys, because you were ready and they weren't, like, that can happen. And I'm not saying whatever Golden or Zachary, I'm just using it as an example of a guy where he's, lower than them on the depth chart, but he could see himself rise up, and then all of a sudden, you become a guy that they count on.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you look at, say, like Hobbs last year, there were opportunities where he could have maybe been a guy that got into that, but he didn't get there. Maybe, I'm not saying his work ethic with him, because it seemed, everything I've heard, the guy's got a crazy work ethic, but it's like, you have to do everything you can to do it. And for some, it's a lot harder, because there's also like, hey, this is your first year at Notre Dame. You're actually going to class, and like, not like some of these other schools and stuff like that. So there is more on your plate, but it's just putting everything into it to try to get prepared, because a lot of guys, you end up playing out of nowhere, and you can actually, it could change like the course of someone's career if they do that.
And it happened to Zachary twice.
Yes.
And look, when I watched it, when I saw it live, my main takeaway was, well, those guys aren't in the game plan and they know it, like that was my takeaway from it. Not kind of cast aspersions, but just saying, like, it's just like they're not in it the way the other guys are in it. But the point about Devontae Smith. So the pregame, and I'm not going to show this video because I shouldn't have posted. I posted it on Twitter, but I didn't realize, and I should have realized, that there's a pregame show that Notre Dame does with NBC. We can't post video from the field or on anything from the press box, from anywhere during the NBC window. And I didn't understand, like, when we were leaving the field, that NBC was doing a pregame show at that time. So it was an NBC thing. Shouldn't have posted it. But I'm on the video that I have on my phone. I can see Devontae Smith on the field. He jogs off slowly, but I don't see like a limp or anything. So I don't know if he's hurt like bad, but like obviously hurt enough to not play at all. So anyway, there was a question that came up. I wanted to address that, because I had a little bit of insight into how exactly injured he was. Listen, we've got some news that's breaking across the wire regarding the pickleball thing, Jamie. We've got a featured exhibition match that's going on in the Purdue game. We've been talking about it. H2 Pickleball, founded by Todd Hill, alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howells, top 10 pickleball pros to bring Notre Dame fans to the Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free, and members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The first event will be a tournament before the Purdue game. Medal rounds will be played on Friday at the Stevens Center on campus and will also feature an exhibition match between Holtz's Heroes, Reggie Brooks, and Steve Berline versus the Golden Legacy, Josh Lugg and Ian Book. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Rockme Athletics Fund to support Notre Dame student athletes. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league. Be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka, Indiana. We should talk about the offense, Jamie, because it was good. It was a market improvement. I thought the offensive line played better. I thought the running game was better. It's like I said on Power Hour yesterday. You give 35 carries to Price and Love in the game, and your quarterback throws for 293 yards. Like, that is the template of what Notre Dame wants to be. That is what they want to do. There were some missed opportunities, unfortunately. You have first and goal from the 3, you get 3 points. You have another first and goal situation or for a red zone situation, you come up with 3 points, right? So there's 2 red zone trips where you get 3, you could have gotten 6, or you could have gotten 14 there, right? So you lament those, especially when you lose by 1 point, right? But a lot of good stuff. Did you have a problem with as much Wildcat as they ran? Leprechaun, whatever you want to call it?
I didn't have a problem with, I had a problem with how they did it. Like, I think, we kind of went over it on Power Hour, right? Like,
yeah,
take CJ Carr off the field. Just take him off the field. Like, you're not fooling anyone. After you do it the first time or second time or whatever, you're not fooling anyone, especially when it's short yardage. Like, everybody knew Riley Leonard was getting the ball in those situations. But they ran it a specific way. They ran quarterback power. And They had an extra blocker, and they have one less blocker in there now.
I thought Marcus's response to this didn't make sense at all.
Not me either. Yeah.
The way he's described it was a reason not to do the Wildcat, where it's like, oh, yeah, you get an extra blocker when you run the quarterback. It's like, okay, well, now you're removing a blocker.
You're removing a blocker.
You're doing the opposite. So, like, that is not the best way. That didn't make sense. Whatever to me. I just didn't like how he described it, but I agree with you. If you're going to do that, take CJ Carr off the field. And actually, it was a good question that someone asked, like, bring in Minchie then, maybe, if you feel like that's going to help you out.
100%, because the other thing is, too, is like, and maybe they don't feel like Minchie's good. I don't know, right? Like, we don't know for sure. But, like, if you want to be like, hey, we got to protect Carr here. We can't do this. He's not the same as Leonard in these situations. That's 100% a thing that not just is it like would be a good thing if it worked out, but also would be a good thing for Minchie to like stay engaged. And then also like, hey, for because everybody, I think it's pretty obvious right now, as long as everything stays hunky-dory as it is on offense, like CJ Carr is going to be the quarterback for the next couple of years at least. Yeah. But would help him to have some film of some other stuff other than like whatever. So then the next team knows that he can do that kind of thing too. So I think it's something they should look at. And the other thing is too, is why you have that. And the reason why it would be good if it was Minchie, because one of the reasons when it was good when you did it with Leonard was you had the option to hand it off to Love. And Love was the guy in there. By the way, like, go back to the Georgia Tech game, and he just lit some guy up on an ISO.
Yeah.
On, like, he can bring the smoke. So, or you could do Indian Swim or whoever, right? But bring somebody in that you could hand the ball off to. And then have that too. And then also it gives you the option to doing the, sticking it little pop pass, dump it over, right? Like all of that. And you just take that option off the table if that's the case. Because I don't think you're going to do that with Jeremiah Love as the guy, right? So, yeah, I don't mind that they do it in terms of like, okay, we want to get more touches for Love and all that too. But in the way that they did it, other than the last time that they did it, because they did it and then basically Ty Washington was like an H-back lead blocker. That's fine.
That was a great cut by Love, by the way. Cut right off his butt. Yeah, that was a really good run by him. You know what else they could do? They could direct snap it. Like, you remember the old Florida State play that you used to do with Rock Preston and Warwick Dunn?
Yeah.
Direct snap it and have CJ Carr there, right? Like it's also an option, that they could go with.
Did it in this game. They did it and they scored. They with the old Darius Walker, Charlie Weiss special, right? So
yeah. Do that. That's also an option that they could go with. So yeah, those are good comments there. I thought Mike Denbrock called a good football game. I really think he had a good plan. I think that he
a good sense of the moment with a lot of his stuff too. I mean, to me, it was like, it's funny how I do see. Anytime there's a game of any kind of thing, there like I see some random like fire Denbrock stuff or like after the Miami game, and I was like, what? Like, I don't think this like they're like, it's so obvious he sucked last year. I was like, no, he actually did a great job. Like, I think Mike Denbrock, if you're looking at how like that hire has gone for Notre Dame, and was it worth it? They're paying him a lot of money. I think it's been that worth it. They're worth every penny. I think he's done a really, really good job with it. Would I like to see more play action? Yes, I would like to see more play action. But I mean, I think for the most part, I think he does a really, really good job. There's always going to be calls that you could say, like in the moment, I wish they called this instead or whatever. Like, first and goal from the 3. Wish you would have done something. But that's always hindsight, right? That's always hindsight of looking at it.
Yeah. There was meat on the bone to Malachi Fields in the game when Carr overthrew him a couple times on some go balls that are like, man, I don't know that they took advantage of that as well as they could have. I mean, there was one they tried and Carr, I think it's there and it's on, and he just overthrew it. He couldn't even get his hands on it. I think that's one of the Carr
call was a good call too.
Which one? The first one?
The one that Lee kind of broke it up, but I'm like, that wasn't a bad call. Like,
so I agree with you. I wanted the fade for the reason I wanted the fade is for kind of the reason the play was broken up. I didn't love the route that Fields ran.
Yeah, that's what I didn't like. I liked the call, but I didn't like the route.
I didn't think he pressed him enough. He could have gotten his hips turned, and he didn't do that. It kind of worked out because Texas A&M brought some real heat there, and so even a little bit later, it might have been broken up. The other part too was, and this is like super nitpicky on Carr, but like when you see the corner there, throw it to the back shoulder so that he can, very similar to the last touchdown, throw it to the back shoulder so that he can use his body to shield the defender. That's kind of that's like super nitpicky on the quarterback and like not really fair for a redshirt freshman, but like that's how the pass is going to get completed. The wheel route to Jeremiah Love was brilliant. I thought the flea flicker was a really good call.
Great call.
I thought the run game, I thought the way they integrated Jadarian Price was really, really good. I mean, they ran the ball in on Texas A&M a couple of times from not the 1 yard line, right? And I think that's something that's pretty underrated, the ability to run the ball in from the 7, the ability to run the ball in from the 20. Like, that is huge. And Notre Dame was able to do that. Thought he caught him off balance a couple of times there. He did the thing that we were talking about when I texted you during the game. Like, it was 3rd and 9. I think it was on their first scoring drive. They ran the ball for 25 yards. I thought that was like really smart, right? Obviously we advocated for it. But I thought that was just like a really, really
I thought
smart
he
thing
had
to
it.
do.
Yeah, he had his finger on the pulse for most of the game. I thought he really did a good job, and I think too, like one of the reasons why CJ Carr um, is having success and showing so much potential is because he's setting him up for success. Like
Yeah.
he's doing that. So I think it's and I only see it like kind of expanding because I think Carr obviously has the arm to kind of make every throw that you want, and um, I'm excited. I'm excited about the offense and where they can go from here. I really think this game was a good showcase of the weapons, and there's going to be different games. Like I do think like there's going to be games where Great House goes off,
Yeah.
something like that. I think that is going to happen, right? Like it's just some of it is going to be matchup dependent and all that, right? Like I think there's going to be different things there that you see, and obviously too, like one of the things you're going to see is like Love and Price are going to break long ones in the weeks to come too, and that hasn't even been a real like. I mean, Price has broken a couple long ones, but not. I'm talking about like the 60-yard ones. Like that is going to happen too. So I think and also too, like the offensive line was so much better in this game, like just miles and miles better than they were, and that was something I think if you said what was the biggest concern maybe on the team, heading into the second game, it was the offensive line, and they were just so much better. So I think that was a very good sign as well.
Yeah, I think it was 35 for 167 rushing for Love and Price. In a game like that, I mean, that'll definitely get it done. Your two running backs scored 4 touchdowns. That will definitely, get it done. I didn't think that. I mean, CJ Carr at times he had a lot of time to get the ball out. He had a lot of time to scan the field. I think he's done a really good job with like hanging in there and scanning the field. I feel like all of the mistakes he's made are everything you're going to see from a first year redshirt freshman quarterback, like the clapping of the hands. Like he just lost his mind for a second,
yes,
like he just got frustrated. He got flustered and clapped his hands, which is like, it's just, that's the sort of thing that happens.
And even though like the picks, like, the one that should have been a pick, whatever, that was a great play. Like,
I think it gets slightly tipped too. I think it was going to be okay, but the D tackle got his fingertip on it and it pushed the ball up and it went over Price's hands. Yeah.
And honestly, yes. Okay. You don't want to throw a pick in that situation, but that is a lot different than him throwing like, oh my God, he read this completely wrong. And just,
yeah. You
know what I mean? Like it's a different thing to be like, you're trying to make a play in that situation, some indecision maybe led to it, like you said, tip, whatever, like, but you can live with those. And the good just outweighs the bad. And just like, I just think he's like, he throws for 293 yards. Like, it's a pretty darn good game.
293 yards, without overtime, like in regulation. I think there's reason to believe, I think Marcus Freeman made a good point yesterday when he was saying, like, we just got a lot of good wide receivers. And so, like, Great House hadn't caught a pass yet, right? Like, Matt made a joke. Great House had a false start, and he was like, Great House has more penalties than catches. And, but obviously he has the one big catch and he's wide open, and it's a good design and good recognition by Carr. I think he's going to have a big game. I think Pauling will have a moment in there too. I think Malachi Fields, he's good. There's a lot there.
He's very good.
Yes. I think Notre Dame
he is absolutely what people thought that he was going to be. He is that guy.
Yeah.
And could maybe even be more like, and two, where you say like Faison is just, he's just one of those guys that, yeah, okay, he had the drop. That's a tough catch, whatever. But it was, drop that ball. But he's a guy that when he gets the ball, he moves the chains. Like he's after the catch. That's what he is. That's what he is. That's what he does well,
Yeah.
right? And Reardon is really good. He's very good. And he didn't have, obviously had the two drops in the first game, but he had that was a really tough catch, that one over the middle that he brought in. Like, was really, really tough catch. So
one over the middle, and then he got another one up the seam where he gets hit, before he comes down. And obviously has the catch and run on the other one. I mean, it's kind of what Notre Dame needs from him. I thought Ty Washington was more involved, which was good to see. That thing that I'm worried about just generally is, again, these things aren't linear with quarterbacks sometimes, and there's going to be a dip, and they really should not be 0-2 with the way that CJ Carr started the season. It's like, I'm stunned at that.
Yeah.
Very, very surprised. And when people talk about, it's funny. People will talk about, anytime you predict as podcasters and give analysis like we do, you predicted, I think 12-0. Did you?
Yes, I did.
I think you did. I predicted 11-1. And so anytime you do that and they start 0-2, people are like, well, you sold us a bill of goods. Yeah, you sold us a bill of goods. I think, I think the part of that I feel okay about is, we always said about Ash, like, he was a huge question mark, and we can't evaluate it until we actually see games, and that we were pretty confident about that, or pretty clear about that. You just don't expect that it's going to look like it did, right? You're going to give up.
The thing is, if it was just a drop off, like, oh, well, they took a step back.
Right.
They win both the games. They win those games.
Yeah.
Right. They still win those games, but it's been, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Jacob Paula says, I don't pay for ISD for the game.
Well, thank God.
Thank you.
I hate doing the predictions each week.
I don't like him either. I don't like him either.
Well, I'm supposed to predict that, like, that Devontae Smith's going to get hurt in the, there's just all these things, right? It's just like,
I think it's more like, we said in the preview, like, man, they better get pressure, because they've got some guys that can hurt them.
Yes.
And they did not get pressure, and they have some guys that can hurt them, kind of on that point. And I know we're going a little bit long, but I feel like there's a lot kind of to talk about. Christian Gray, we noted it. He has the problem turning and running with guys. He continues to have that problem. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence in it, or he's just kind of swimming in his mind right now. I mean, he's getting run by a lot. And it's like, you look at USC, if they can do anything, they're
going to go after him 100 times. Like, it's Like that is definitely like, and everything you've seen right now, every team will. And because even if you stop it, they're still going to do it, because he's just happened enough that it's just like, you just have to prepare for that. So it's like Troy Pride, who, played the field as well. Teams just stopped testing him.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I don't think anyone's caught a deep ball in this guy yet. Like, when he was playing the field, like, that wasn't happening. Right. And it's the opposite. It's like, if enough teams get you, they're going to keep going. And it's just how it is. It's kind of like when, Ohio State, like, I would just throw at Davis Igbenison like 5,000 times in the game.
Yeah.
Because yes, he's going to get some stops, but he's also going to commit like at least 4 penalties, that if you keep doing it. Right. And obviously that's the first thing I'm going to the refs. I'm like, we're gonna throw at this guy a lot, and he's grabs all the time, and it's pretty obvious. So I think you already know, right? So
yeah,
just making you aware. So then I don't have to yell at you when he does do it, whatever. Like that they do that pregame, like that is going to happen, right? Like they're going to have every team from now on is going to. Purdue will do it. Like all these teams will do it. But USC is the team that when you think about it, because they have, Makai Lemon and they have
Jacoby Lane,
and yeah, it's going to be a thing.
He's got to figure it out. And Notre Dame's got something in their scheme where you just say, Leonard Moore, you take the boundary, and we are turning our back to you. Good luck. God bless. We're turning our back to you. Everything is focused to the field, and we're sending everyone to the field, and you got to deal with it. Because I'll tell you what, why would anyone throw at Leonard Moore at this point? He doesn't need a healthy ankle.
No.
They threw at him 5 times. First of all, one of those is in his zone, and I don't think it should count. They threw at him 5 times or 4 times. They're 0 for 4, 2 passes broken up, an interception. You just can't throw at them, and they're not going to. Focus everything on the field, and just Leonard Moore, go do you. I honestly think they might have to do that against some of these good teams, or like some of these passing teams, like you said, like USC. I mean, CJ Bailey's good at NC State. Like he can throw. I mean, he's very similar to Marcel Reed in the sense that like he will push the ball. I mean, the NC State is viable now. You got to look at these teams differently when you see that performance from the defense.
100%, because I would say,
I mean, Syracuse.
If the pass rush if they fix the pass rush, then CJ Bailey will get sacked like 8 times.
Yeah,
Notre Dame, because he hangs onto the ball way too long.
Yeah,
way too long. He's always trying to make a play. He's just and he will just he might get hurt and leave the game, like because he's going to take a bunch of hits. Yeah. He might actually get hurt before they play them because he takes a lot of hits.
Yeah.
But like if you're like Wake Forest, who did not get any pressure on him, he's going to hang on the ball forever and then do stuff. And plus, Hollywood Smothers, very good back. So yeah.
Mickey Irish says, "Why don't you think they let Leonard Moore just guard the best receiver?" They did this at the end. They put him on Craver. So I thought that was interesting. They put him on Craver. So I mean, they did it then. They might have to do that. I mean, I would very much consider we're putting Leonard Moore on Makai Lemon, even if it's in nickel in the slot. I think.
Oh yeah.
You just they might have to do that.
I would and say, okay, well, it's the old Bill Belichick, right? Is like,
we're taking away your best thing.
We're taking away that guy. We're going to put our guy on this guy. And then your other guy, we're doubling him every time. We're bracketing him. And, when you're playing USC last year, you're like, okay, well, then they're just going to throw this other guy. This year, you might be able to get away with it more.
Yeah.
So, it's something to think about for sure.
Yeah. The Adon Schuler ejection, because someone brought it up and I wanted to bring it up real quick. I don't know that by definition you should ever eject a player when there wasn't a call on the field, especially because the necessity you need is clear and obvious. If it's clear and obvious, you need to see it on the field.
It was not even clear and obvious too. Once you watch, even with the slow-mo, it was a horrible call.
I don't understand what's going on with the replay. I don't.
Hey, hold on. Quinn Crutzen, how do you fix the pass rush? I mean, literally, I went on like a 18-minute rant.
I think maybe Quinn. Check out the kind of earlier in the show.
Yes,
Jamie went on for
we went
45 minutes.
It was a long rant about
a lot, but a long but informative rant that everyone appreciates. Yeah. So we didn't get to Purdue. That's in some ways my bad.
On Thursday.
We'll talk about it on Thursday. We'll talk about Purdue on Thursday, and we'll do that. So All right, we're going to end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, so whatever it is, we'll be going live. We'll be back on Thursday with Purdue thoughts and, hopefully some more information for you. So have a good rest of your day, everyone. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Keep hitting and hustling.